IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I am streaming to you live from beautiful Budapest. I hope everybody has had a great weekend so far and is enjoying their Saturday. This lesson is brought to you by aehelp.com for the academic version of the exam, and for the general version, check out gieltshelp.com. On both of those websites, you have over 100 hours of video lessons, a fully interactive course, and over 100 hours of video lessons, and 6 original practice exams. Hi, Carolina. You became a member. Fantastic. That's great. Hi, Shanghung. Good to see you in class. All right, students, while we wait for a few more members to come into the class, I will just quickly show you those websites. They look like this. This is the academic. It's got the blue background at aehelp.com. Click that big red button to join us there. Hi, Alexander. This is the general version of the exam with the green background, and click that big red button to join us there. Members, this is a Q&A class, so it's a question and answer session. I know there were a lot of questions in the last class we had like this, so hopefully you remember some of those. Think about some questions that you have, and we'll discuss them in just a moment. You can download our app, Academic IELTS Help, from your Google Play or Apple Store. You can link your app with your web account for a truly great learning experience. Hi, Daniil. I'm doing great. Hope you're doing well also. If you have questions, comments, viewers, members, my email is Adrian, A-D-R-I-A-N, at aehelp.com. So today we are doing a question and answer session for members. Okay, I know that often questions come up while you're studying. And then in 90 minutes, we will have a speaking part 3 that everybody can chat for. So let me just open up the panel for discussion. Any questions, members, that you have thought of, or any inquiries that came up while you were studying? Okay, our new member, Carolina, she's a longtime student of our channel and mine as well, had a couple of good questions that I inquired about from British Council just the other day. The question was, do we have note paper in the computer-based exam? And according to British Council, the answer to that question is yes. You get a piece of paper with registration information for each section, and you can use the back of it for notes. Okay. Now you may have to bring a pencil or a pen with you. I'm not sure if they provide you with one for the computer-based exam, but you do get a piece of paper, and they also said that they do take away this piece of paper. So each piece of paper is taken away at the end of each section. Okay, so when you finish the listening section, they take it away. You get another piece for the reading section. When you're finished the reading section, they take it away, and then you get another piece. So this is for the computer-based exam, okay? Obviously, for the paper-based exam, you have a lot more paper material, so you'll have spaces to jot down ideas and information as you go along, okay? Another question with the computer-based exam that came up is, can I use control copy? So question was, and it was a good question, Carolina, so can I copy paste? Okay. And the answer to that, again, this is for the computer-based, obviously paper-based. You could not copy-paste even if you wanted to, unless you had some scissors and glue, which you do not. Okay, so that was a joke. Exam, can I copy-paste? The answer is yes, you can. Okay. So before I get to the next question, staying with this interesting point of copy-pasting in the computer-based exam, when might you find that an advantage? So when can the copy-paste command be an advantage for you in the computer-based exam? When can that especially be useful? Hi, Awaz, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. So when can copy pasting be useful in the computer-based exam? What do you think? Yeah, Roshni says in the writing section. Absolutely, Roshni. So it's useful in the writing section to organize or reorganize information. Like putting the thesis to the end of the introductory paragraph. Okay, so definitely, but you cannot use the Control F find function. That's right, Roshni, when you're making mistakes as well. So another question that was asked, again by Carolina. So Carolina, thank you for all these wonderful questions that you submitted earlier. Another question was, can I use Control F to find words in text? And of course, the answer here is no, you cannot. It'd be nice, but no. Nice try, but no cigar there. Okay. All right. So Roshni has a question. Roshni says, in task 2, I want to explain one reason in the paragraph I get into difficulty to write grammar in the paragraph. Okay. So Roshni says, can you give me an example, Roshni? Just any specific example that you're thinking of? Can you just type one in real quick? Roshni says, when I want to explain ideas in task 2, paragraphs, I get into trouble with grammar. Okay. All right, I think, Roshni, that there is a bigger question behind your thoughts, right? Which is, how do I make sure that I'm using correct grammar? Okay. And this applies like with the be verb is or are. Okay, Roshni. Yeah, so plural, singular be verbs. Yeah, sure. So the bigger question here, there's a hidden bigger question here is, how do I increase my accuracy with grammar? Okay, so that's a big question, but a very important one. And what do you think? So without me telling you, what do you think? What are some ways to improve your accuracy in grammar in both speaking and writing? So what can you do? Okay, Kisi, I'll write down your question after. We'll cover that one next. Okay, that's a good question as well. Okay, before we do that, let's focus in on this one. How do I increase my accuracy with grammar? Okay, Roshni says reading. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Welcome, Kanav, to our group of members. So Roshni says read lots. Okay, so one, read often. Reading helps to crystallize grammar in your mind. Okay, so this is one of the big reasons that reading frequently, regularly, is a very important practice and regular activity that you need to do for the exam, because reading helps you to not only improve your grammar, but also make it firm in your thinking. So make it clear in your thinking, okay? What else? What else can you do? Okay, so that's one for sure. So read often. What else can you do for grammar? Anybody? Okay, one step that you can take. Yeah, so Kisi says practice with grammar books. Sure, yeah. Okay. Yeah. One step that you can do, so there's a couple more steps. Those are good ideas. Go back to basics and build up your grammar from scratch. Okay. Now, very importantly here, understand the reasons for grammar and grammar rules. It's very difficult to master grammar in another language, especially as an adult, when you don't understand the reason for a certain grammar, the logic of that grammar. Grammar developed naturally in language. It wasn't like somebody came up with a rule and said, aha, we're going to have this rule from tomorrow, and everybody who speaks English must follow this rule, and this will be the new grammar of the next century. That's not how grammar works. That's not how grammar develops in language. Grammar actually develops naturally in language, and then certain rules are identified because there's a situation, a logic that demands a specific type of grammar to emerge. Okay, so every kind of grammar, every type of sentence structure has some logic behind it. I'll give you a couple examples. Of course, we could be here for the next 100 hours and I won't finish all of these, but I'll give you a couple examples so you understand what I'm talking about. So let's do it this way. Okay, so here are two sentences. Okay. And Kanav, I see your question about the reading section. I'll get to that as well. Okay. So here are two sentences. I run on Tuesday mornings versus I am running on Tuesday mornings. What's the difference between these two sentences? Okay. You don't have to worry about the exceptions in grammar, Roshni. Just focus on the principles. Okay, so sentence A versus, let's make that sentence B so that's easier for us to discuss. So what's the difference here between these two sentences? I run on Tuesday mornings versus I am running on Tuesday mornings. Okay, it's not a change in passive. They're both active, so in both cases, I'm the agent of the action. I'm the subject. I'm doing the action of running, okay? So in both cases, I'm the agent, and it's an active sentence. So what's the difference? And realistically, students, for those high band scores, you need to have a very quick, clear understanding of these kinds of grammar. Okay? So Alexander says, the first implies that it's regular. I run on Tuesday mornings. I am running on Tuesday mornings. Alexander, both of them imply regularity because it's Tuesday mornings. So in both cases, it's implied that I'm regularly doing this activity. Okay? So good. So Roshni says the first one is simple present. And the second one is simple continuous or progressive. Okay? What's sometimes confusing is in English we have different notation for the same grammar. So we'll say progressive, or some teachers will say progressive, some will say continuous, but it's the same idea. Okay, let me bring that down so you can see it. Okay, we'll just bring it here. All right, so I run on Tuesday mornings versus I'm running on Tuesday mornings, simple present, simple progressive. So what is different between that? So what's different between present and what's different between continuous? Here it is, students, and this is the interesting part. And unfortunately, this kind of information is missing from a lot of your grammar books and grammar lessons, but this is some vital information. And in the future, you need to find out this information. So here's a big difference, okay? I run on Tuesday mornings represents a still image in the mind, okay? It's not moving. It's like when you hear this, what your mind actually visualizes is just this kind of picture, okay, of a person, okay? The ing, as it implies, is like rolling the film. So now suddenly with the ing, I'm running in the mornings, you see the movement of the runner, okay? So using progressive, using continuous, is like adding movement to the picture. Maybe some of you are familiar with those little, they have a special name, I can't remember it, but you know where you have a little drawing on many little pages, and when you flip the pages quickly, then you see a moving picture of a person. So the present simple is like just looking at the top picture, running. And then when you change it to continuous, it's like flipping the pages. It's actual movement, okay? So when you're writing or when you're speaking, you as the presenter need to decide what type of grammar best represents your ideas, what you want to show to your audience, okay? And when you understand that, it becomes much more logical and faster to use the correct grammar. And every form of grammar has logic and reason like that behind it. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to go back to your grammar basics. You want to understand why it's used, and then build to more complex forms of grammar and clearly understand why you're using that. I'll show you a nice complex grammar piece and explain to you what's happening. Okay. All right, so we just definitely jumped a few octaves in the grammar difficulty, okay? Since my doctor advised me to increase my fitness level, I have been running every Tuesday morning. Now, I could have written this like this. Okay. So I could have written it like this, but I decided to write it like this. In this case, my dependent clause comes first. My independent clause comes second. What type of grammar am I using here, members? So in this part of my sentence, what type of grammar am I using? Anybody? So what is that? Obviously, it's a step up from this grammar here. What am I using? Anybody? What is that grammar? Yeah, so Alexander says that's present perfect progressive. Okay, it's not future perfect, Roshni. It's present perfect. Okay, future perfect is different. So it's present perfect progressive, absolutely. Okay. Now, I'm the speaker, I'm the writer, so I present my grammar in this way because what I want to show to my audience is the emphasis is here. So I want to give strength to this element of the sentence. Whatever comes first always carries more strength than what comes second. Okay? In this example here, I've switched the order, so I've switched the emphasis from my doctor's advice to my running, okay? But in this case, I want the listener to really pay attention to the fact that I received some advice from my doctor. So this is the important or the more important piece of the information. Then I express the idea that as a result of this, I have been running every Tuesday morning, which means that this is where my doctor gave me the advice. This is where we are now. Okay. So Tuesday mornings, okay. Okay, so Tuesday mornings, since the unknown time of my doctor's advice, my doctor gave me the advice at some point, could have been a month ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, but regardless, since that time regularly, again and again, every Tuesday, I am running, and I'm showing a continuous picture, so it's a video, it's not a still image. I'm running on these Tuesdays, and I'm also telling my audience that most likely in the future this action will continue to repeat on Tuesdays. Okay? Because there are 5 reasons that we use present perfect in the English language. Change over time, repetition over time. This is repetition over time. Tuesday, 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 Tuesday. Okay? Expectation, achievement, and experience. So we use present perfect in those 5 contexts when we want to emphasize experience, achievement, repetition over time, change over time, and expectation. Okay? Now, again, I'm not going to get more into grammar lessons today, but the emphasis here, and I hope I haven't lost you yet, is that when you understand the reason that you're using a certain type of grammar and you purposefully apply that in your writing and in your speaking, then you become much more accurate. But to do that, you have to go back to the basics and build up to this kind of grammar. Now, Roshni, I know that wasn't as simple of an answer maybe that you were looking for, but that's the truth. In order to write good explanations in your body paragraphs, you have to use purposeful grammar. And most of the time, Roshni, yes, progressive forms often can be better than static forms, okay? Because humans like to visualize continuous movement. Again, remember that humans are visual. Our primary sense is our vision. We see, we love to watch, we love to see. Words and sounds we often use to symbolize or express vision. Okay? So grammar, not surprisingly, is evolved or has evolved around human vision, around symbolizing human vision. Okay? Keep that in mind. I know that was quite a complex and maybe abstract explanation, Roshni, for how to approach grammar. But that is the right answer. That is the truthful answer. Go back to grammar basics, build up your grammar, always identify the reasons you're using a specific kind of grammar, and read lots so that you can identify and associate with those different grammar forms. Then practice it in your writing. Okay? You're very welcome. Again, complex answer, but no easy way around it. Okay? All right. And of course, proofread your work. Proofread your work. Okay. Next question was Kesey. Let's go back to that. And then we had a question from our latest student. So we'll get to those in short order. Kesey asking, how do I avoid overcomplicating my answers in part 3 speaking? All right. Good question. Because that, Kesey, happens to not just you, but a lot of students. They just start talking, they start to overcomplicate, they keep talking, and then suddenly they're off topic and making a lot of mistakes with their words, word choices. Okay, so let's talk about that. And Daniel, I see that you have a question as well, so we'll come to that later. Okay, so the answer is number 1, visualize, okay? And notice how it's interesting. We've gone from visual grammar or visual language to visualizing ideas, visualizing what we want to express. So when you have a question, then you need to visualize it and you need to stick to it. Okay? Again, Kesey, think of what most people would answer. Okay? The generic answer. All right? Let me see if I can find you an example here, Kesey, and we'll work out of that. Okay? All right. Some part 3 sample questions. So, quick question to you. What makes a good television show? Okay. What do you visualize? So when you get this question, Kesey, what makes a good television show? What do you visualize? Okay, so my best answer to you, Kesey, will be with this example. So Kanav says a good plot. Okay, Kanav, that's the right answer. How do you get that answer? Okay, so a good plot or a good story. So Kanav's right. Okay, so okay, a good plot or a good story. Yeah, absolutely. Plot means the story that is in the show. How do you get there? So what do you visualize? What should you see? Okay. What can you see when you get this question? What makes a good television show? And you have to get this answer. Kesey says funny and lots of audience. That's not going to help you, Kesey. That's the kind of idea that will get you into trouble. You might think that'll work, but it won't because it's abstract. You can't actually visualize funny. you can see a lot of audience, but that's not going to help you much. So here, the subject, the topic is television show, right? So see a popular television show and ask yourself what makes it good. What's a popular television show? Tell me a popular television show. Okay. What is a good television show? Okay, so Kanav says Friends. Okay. So you visualize Friends, you ask yourself what makes it good, and you think good actors. Now you might be thinking, well, really? That's tricky to do that in another language quickly when I get a question like this. But no, not really. Okay. Carolina says Black Mirror. And Black Mirror is a good one for the previous answer, which is a good plot, a good story. Okay. So it always has different actors, so it's not so much the actors. Okay. One that comes to mind for me is Game of Thrones. It's extremely popular, I think, in most countries, right? We're finished now with the story, but for 8 seasons, hundreds of millions of people around the world were kept in suspense and were waiting and excited to see the next episode. Okay, it had both good story and good actors. Okay, so what you want to do, Kisi, to stay focused, to not overcomplicate, is keep your concepts focused. Keep it in a compartment. Okay, so here. Okay, so in my response, Kisi, what I'm doing is I'm basically taking my visualization. So my visualization, I start with Great Game of Thrones. I think about what makes it good. I realize it's the story and the actors. And then in my response, I can say, oh, good television show has a captivating plot. If you don't know the word, an excellent plot. If you don't know the word, an excellent story. And outstanding actors. If you don't know the word, talented actors. One such program that has gained massive popularity these days is Game of Thrones. And now you have your answer, explanation, and you have your example, a nice smooth sentence. So all I've really done is I've taken this and I've rolled it around. I've put this at the beginning and I've put the example at the end. But in my thinking, I visualized the actual show. That's quality, and that allowed me to think about the reason. So this is that down-up processing, and this helps you to focus your ideas, Kisi. Does that make sense? Okay. And of course, keep your thoughts to answer, explain, example. So that's another piece of advice. So and use the question. Kesey. So notice how the question is, what makes a good television show? A good television show has, or a good TV program has. So I literally use the question to keep me focused and keep me simple, Kesey. So those are the elements, okay? Again, we're visual. Remember, viewers, members, that this entire part of the back of the brain, it's called your occipital lobe. It's a massive lobe. Your brain has 4 lobes. Your upper brain, your cerebrum, and your cerebrum, the back part is your occipital lobe. That's used for all of your visual processing. That doesn't mean just the images that you see in your world, but it actually means the organization, systematization, the function of visual data that's stored in there is all moving around in this back part of your brain, and that's a massive part of your brain. It's much larger in humans than any other animals, and it's an extremely powerful part of your brain, so you have to use it to your advantage, okay? In speaking, in writing, in reading, listening, obviously, okay? So keep that in mind. Okay, maybe getting a little too scientific. But anyway, the next question was asked by our newest members. So Kanav. Kanav is asking us a question. I have to roll back to it here, Kanav. Just give me a second. Okay, so Kanav says, I struggle a lot in the reading section. So, as do a lot of students, Kanav. A lot of students struggle in the reading section, and I think your question there is, what can I do to perform better in the reading section, right? And I think that's the question you're posing here. So what can I do to perform better in the reading section? All right, that's a big question, and we could spend several classes just focusing on that one question. But I'll try to summarize this as much as possible in as few words as possible, okay? So reading has a couple of different components. So okay, so reading can be divided into 2 components, fluency and comprehension. That means how fluently you read, so how smoothly you read information, which can be very challenging when you're reading in another language. And then, of course, how much of what you're actually reading do you truly understand? So that's your second component. Now, these are not separate, okay? So in reading, fluency affects comprehension, okay? So fluency affects your comprehension. If your fluency is low, then that will decrease your comprehension. Now, if your fluency is high, that will help to increase your comprehension. Vice versa, it's not true. You can actually have high comprehension with low fluency. It's possible, although it's usually not the case. Okay, but the reason why it's important to understand this, or these 2 components, is because you can actually target them separately. Okay, so my answer to you as step number 1, Kanav, is focus on fluency individually and then focus on comprehension. When you improve your fluency, you will naturally improve comprehension as well. Let me show you. In our premium package on our website, on both of the websites, in the interactive course, there's a technique called power reading. Now, we don't have time for all of those steps today, but power reading basically suggests a type of practice that you can do, kind of, which can really help to quickly improve your reading performance. So if we jump here to our exam book, okay, then let me get to, this is a perfect example, this one. So here we have a reading passage, okay, and the difficulty kind of is that when students are practicing their reading, they try to improve their reading skills generally. So that means everything at the same time. And they do that by reading and answering questions. So what most students do for practice is they'll start reading. Supernovae are among the most spectacular events in the universe. They are incredibly powerful. In just a few weeks, they can release the same amount of energy as our sun will release in its entire lifetime. Supernovae are also the origin of many of the elements that make up the universe. Most of the elements of the periodic table require enormous amounts of energy to produce, and supernovae are the only source of this energy. Due to their consistent brightness, supernovae are used to measure large distances across the universe. So what students do is they try to read this nice and fluently and understand what they're reading, and then they'll go and answer some questions. So which paragraph contains the information? None of these actually, but the student's trying to look for the answer. So comprehension combined with fluency, okay? I'll get to time management in a second, Kanav, but first, how do you improve, okay? Now, improving your fluency, Kanav, will improve, of course, your time management because you will be faster. Improving your comprehension will improve your time management because you don't need to keep looking back at the text, okay? So, of course, Kanav, reading more is always a good idea, but it's not just about reading more, it's about how you read more, okay? So one way to improve fluency, believe it or not, it's a funny concept, you may think, but it works, is to not care about comprehension and just focus on fluency. Okay, so don't worry about making sense, don't worry about understanding, just focus on having your eye and your brain register as many words as possible, as quickly as possible. And for that, you have to read quickly, okay? So that means don't worry about what you're reading, just read fast. Supernovae are among the most spectacular in the universe. They are incredibly powerful. Just a few weeks, they can release some amount of energy our sun will release in the entire lifetime. Supernovae are the origins of many of the elements that make up the universe. Most of the elements of the periodic table are enormous amounts of energy produced, and supernovae are the only source of such energy due to their consistent brightness. Supernovae are measuring sticks across the universe. Okay, boom. So did I really understand what I was reading? Not so much. Did I read every word? No, because I wanted to stay fluent. So I just let my eyes race forward. It's tiring. Okay, it takes energy to practice in this way. But by forcing yourself to read as fast as you can push to increase your rate of fluency. Okay? Then you can take the other side of this reading coin and focus on comprehension. So then you read really slowly and make sure that you understand what you read. Supernovae are among the most spectacular events in the universe. What does the word spectacular mean? It means amazing. If I don't know it, I look it up in the dictionary. They are incredibly powerful. In just a few weeks, they can release the same amount of energy as our sun will release in our entire lifetime. Okay, so supernovae, boom, it's a big explosion, versus our sun, okay, it's small, couple of weeks, okay, billions of years. All right, and it's the same amount of energy, so it's equal, this explosion is equal to our sun, billions of years, couple of weeks. Wow, okay, so I'm visualizing that. So I'm really going step by step. All right. Roshni says, I'm using this trick from a month ago. And how is it, Roshni? So tell us, share with the group. I know that some of our members do practice power reading. So how is it working for you, Roshni? Is it helping to improve your overall reading ability and score? If not, be honest. Are you doing better overall? So when you sit your practice exams. So anyway, so you can separate fluency and comprehension. And then as you do your practice tests, you can meld these two skills together, these two sides of the reading coin together. And then you'll notice that you're becoming more fluent and comprehending more and saving a lot of time. Okay. So Kanav, that's one idea. The other idea is to avoid skimming and scanning. Kanav, do you skim read for answers? Do you try to scan the passages for answers in your 20 minutes? Or are you actually reading the passage? So do you read the passage, Kanav, before you answer? I know I'm answering a question with another question, but it's important. So what do you do, Kanav? Now, of course, this reading technique that I was showing you is just for practicing at home. You would never do that. Yeah, that's what I thought, Kanav. So unfortunately, skimming and scanning is not an effective tool for the IELTS reading. And the biggest reason being that you cannot skim and scan for a lot of questions, like not given, false answers, a lot of multiple choice answers, inferred question types you cannot skim, scan for. List of headings you cannot skim, read, scan for, many of them because they're paraphrased from the passage, and you can easily get answers wrong if you're skim reading because you'll find misleading information. So the problem kind of with skimming and scanning is that you're actually wasting more time, ironically, in the end. So you have to learn, if you want to get a good band score, especially in the high band scores like 7, 7.5, then you have to learn to read the passage, answer the questions, and answer the questions at least 60% without searching the passage. Okay? Here's another piece of food for thought, members, viewers. If you are searching for every single question, right, there's no way. That's extremely frustrating and difficult to do. So if you do this, like, let me give you an example. Okay, so if you go, okay, question number 27 is mass energy conversion. Okay, mass energy conversion. So what do you do? You're like, oh, well, that's going to be an easy one to scan for because all I need to do is look for this beautiful word grouping here, mass hyphen energy. That's going to be easy for me to find. So I'm going to search for this mass energy. All right, let's do it. Let's search for mass energy. So we go back to the text and we go, okay, whatever paragraph has that will be my answer. So I start nice and quickly with my eyes scanning and skimming the text for mass energy. Maybe reading even the first sentence. Ooh, there's the word mass. Mass between helium molecule. Okay, I don't know, maybe. But it's not the right word, so maybe I'll keep scanning and I'll find it in here. And then I keep going. Oh, there's the word mass again, but that's mass star. So now it could be the second paragraph or it could be this paragraph. And I keep going. And in a very, very disappointed fashion, I realize when I scan to the end of this that none of these paragraphs contain this conjoined word of mass energy. So none of the paragraphs contain mass energy. I've just spent 30 seconds scanning or skimming through the passage. I've completely thrown out the 30 seconds, and the best that has come of it is I've realized now that there are 2 paragraphs which have this word mass, okay, in it. So I go back in hopes that maybe one of these paragraphs will be mass energy conversion. So where was that first one? Here we go. So B was the first one. So now I start reading this. There are 2 major types of supernovae, type 1A, type 2. There are a number of differences. Okay, that's so way too far. So I'm gonna start reading around the word mass. Okay, this energy comes from the difference in mass between a helium molecule and the 4 constituent hydrogen atoms. 4 hydrogen atoms have a mass of approximately 4.0138 atomic mass units, while a helium atom's mass is approximately 4.026 mass units. The difference between these 2 values is the amount of mass which is converted into pure energy. Okay, that looks good. So now I think, okay, maybe that's the answer. And if I'm willing to take a risk, I'll put paragraph B. But if not, then I'm going to check the other place where I saw mass. Okay, the star is then left with an inactive iron core. Once the iron core reaches a certain mass, called the Chandrasekhar limit, the star can no longer exist under its own weight, and it collapses in on itself. The result is a cataclysmic type 2 supernova. Okay, so that actually looks like it could be the right answer as well. And now I'm starting to realize that without further information, without having clarity in the entire passage, I'm going to be taking a wild guess and not having a high degree of confidence. But even worse, it's taken me a minute and a half to 2 minutes to have a maybe concept of the right answer. And that is not the right way to get a high band score, okay? So you need to understand the passage in its completeness, in its entire form, from beginning to end. A passage has an introductory paragraph, it has body paragraphs, it has a flow. When you understand it, you can have much higher confidence in your answers, and you don't need to go back, because if I read the passage properly and fluently, then it will make sense that this is the right answer, and this is in fact where mass energy conversion is clearly explained in this entire paragraph. And I know that because the beginning of the paragraph also explains the concept of energy conversion. Okay, so it comes from more than one place in the paragraph. All right, so skimming, scanning, it's not the right way, and that's not what the people who create the IELTS exam want you to do. So it doesn't work. So Kanav, I know that was a really long-winded answer for you, but I'm always working hard to convince students that they can get much better band scores when they use correct strategies for the exam. Just keep this in mind, viewers and students. IELTS teachers like myself, examiners and experts, if we were to sit the IELTS exam tomorrow, none of us would use skimming and scanning as our primary tool for getting the answers. It would, for no examiner in their right mind would skimming and scanning be the #1 tool used in the reading section to get a high band score. All of us would read the passage, answer most of the questions, and then if we weren't sure about one or two and still had some time, then maybe we would use skimming and scanning to get reassurance or to go back to a part where we thought the answer might be coming from. Okay, So you should always do what an examiner or what an IELTS expert would do, not what some teacher might say because somebody by some chance fluked out and got a good band score with skimming and scanning. Okay. All right. That's all the time I have for today. I know we had one more question from Daniil. Daniil, can you send me that question by email and I'll get to it? Okay. So I know there's always a lot of questions, and unfortunately for a lot of these, Joanne, Justy, I see your question as well. So Joanne, Daniil, just send me the questions by email. I'd love to get to a lot of answers, but the truth is, for a lot of your questions, the answers aren't always simple, and there's a lot of misconceptions of what to do and how to do it. So I welcome your questions by email anytime as well, okay? That's one of your privileges as a member, that I give special attention to your questions, of course. All right. So hopefully there were some, or I shed some light on your inquiries. And again, you can find a lot of your answers and strategies on the websites, aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gltshelp.com for general. In 30 minutes, members, viewers, I will continue with speaking part 3 as the final class for this week. Hopefully, I'll see you soon. Until then, have an awesome half an hour, and if it's late in your country or if you've got other actions or activities to do, then enjoy and have a great day. Bye for now.